اللي يعني برضو بنتهز الفرصة وبوجه الشكر لمجلس النواب على سرعة يعني موافقته على هذه الحزمة وإقرارها، واللي إن شاء الله هنبدأ تطبيقها اعتبارا من هذا الشهر طبعا بمجرد يعني ما يصدر القرار الخاص بالقانون. الحقيقة احنا من ساعتها واحنا بنتابع على الأرض موقف أهم شيء طبعا السلع ومستلزمات الإنتاج والمواد الخام، لأن كل هدفنا كحكومة في هذه المرحلة الاستمرار في توفر السلع في السوق والحفاظ على بقدر الإمكان أن الأسعار طبعا تبقى مستقرة في هذه المرحلة بالذات. ويمكن عشان كده يعني النهاردة الحقيقة، وده برضو كان طبقا لتكليفات فخامة الرئيس، كان في يعني تكليفات لقواتنا المسلحة الباسلة والشرطة والمحافظات ووزارة التموين بموضوع ان احنا نتوسع في توزيع الكراتين اللي بتحتوي على السلع الغذائية الرئيسية بأسعار طبعا مدعمة بالكامل، وايضا التوسع في انشاء المنافذ اللي بتعرض فيها هذه السلع بأسعار معقولة وفي متناول كل المواطنين في هذه المرحلة. وهتستمر إن شاء الله هذه المنافذ في خلال الفترة القادمة علشان تحقيق الاستقرار في السلع، وإن المواطن يجد هذه السلع بأسعار معقولة في هذا الوقت. ولكن أيضا أنا حابب أقول إن الحقيقة يعني في تواصل كامل مع اتحادات الغرف التجارية، ويمكن معالي وزير التموين كان لسه عاقد اجتماع منذ يعني يومين تقريبا أول امبارح مع كل اتحادات الغرف، وتم التوافق معاهم على يعني العمل على استقرار الأسعار السلع، والأهم توفرها بالكمية اللي مطلوبة في خلال الفترة القادمة. وده جهد الحقيقة جهد كبير جدا احنا كدولة بنبذله، والحقيقة برضو مع قرارات السيد محافظ البنك المركزي بدأ بالفعل انفراجة جيدة جدا في الخروج المواد الخام ومستلزمات الانتاج، وبدأت فعلا كل رجال الصناعة بيقولوا ان فعلا ابتدى هذا الموضوع يعني يتحرك منذ اتخاذ القرارات كانت يوم الخميس لما خدنا اجراءات تحرير السلع. فالحقيقة دي كلها يعني قرارات مهمة جدا، هدفنا كحكومة زي ما قلت لحضراتكم العمل على توافر السلع وإتاحتها لكل المواطنين وما يبقاش في نقص لأي سلع. احنا بنتابع كل قضايا المحاصيل المختلفة، موضوع الرز، موضوع القطن حتى للفلاح المصري، وبنتابع الإجراءات ازاي علشان نضمن طبعا برضو استقرار هذا الموضوع. ولكن يمكن اسمحوا لي انت حضراتكم لما اعلنا عن حزمة الحماية الاجتماعية، وكان اجماليها زي ما حضراتكم عارفين تقترب من 67 مليار جنيه، واللي قلناها كلها اللي هي هتبقى على مدار العام، اللي منها طبعا
one of which is the bonus for salaries, pensions, as well as all the procedures, you know, and celebrating the centennial of establishing the Federation of Egyptian Industries. The Federation promised to increase this to the workers and employees in the private sector. So the state exerted a lot of efforts with this cost 67 billion Egyptian pounds. One of these decisions I would like to introduce for you to know. One of this package of social protection was not increasing the price of electricity and the main utilities. And accordingly, we agreed that over this fiscal year we won't increase. We decided to extend it to the 30th of June, so a whole year without any increase. I would like to give you the figure as the Minister of Electricity should have presented it. When we did the plan of restructuring the pricing of electricity, and it was announced on the 30th of June 2020 by the minister. He announced this plan, and in this plan we had the exchange rate of 16 Egyptian pounds per dollar. The pricing of electricity is of course related to the natural gas he receives from the Ministry of Oil and Petroleum, as well as the international pricing. So it was according to 16 Egyptian pounds per dollar, the exchange rate. And he said that if the exchange rate changes, then prices would change. And today we made a decision not to increase these prices for the citizen over a whole year. The plan simply was calculated for 16 Egyptian pounds, and now the dollar, as you can see, has increased. The actual figure as a result to this increase, and not applying the main increase that could have been made if the dollar equals 16 Egyptian pounds. So the subsidy incurred by the state in electricity sector over 1 year is 43 billion Egyptian pounds. So we as the electricity sector, because of fixing the prices and not applying the plan and not increasing the difference in the exchange rate, we are talking about 43 billion Egyptian pounds in addition to the 67 billion Egyptian pounds we've mentioned before. I'm giving these figures to know to what extent the state is trying to reduce the burden shouldered by the Egyptian households at this critical moment. Because, as I said, we all realize the economic conditions the Egyptian families are facing, and we try as a government as much as we can according to our budget and financial resources. Because you asked me once and asked the Minister of Finance, we allowed this, and you asked us from where are you going to bring these 67. So we said that they will bring it from our reserves in order to deal with economic indicators, the economic performance, and our budget indicators. And we will go on with this fiscal discipline we are working on. I just wanted to give the figure for electricity. If you excuse me, the Minister of Petroleum will talk to us about the price of the gas cylinder. So I will give him the floor, and I will give the floor also to the Minister of Supply, so that the citizen would know the cost of the loaf of bread with the increase in prices and the increase in wheat prices. And with the exchange rate, of course, the cost of the loaf of bread has increased, and we are incurring it on behalf of the citizen. So I will give the floor to the Minister of Petroleum. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. To continue what the Prime Minister said regarding the fuel and the diesel, we, as a petroleum sector, our main role is to secure the demand of the market and the citizen and the state and the industry from petroleum, be it cylinders, diesel, or mazot, anything that is needed for trade and transport. So these are our main targets, and this is exactly what we are doing right now. And for years we had a good plan, and this plan is not just secure the production and provide it on the local level, but also to increase local industry of petroleum and diesel. We have been, for example, importing 40 or 50% at some months. Now the amount of imports is 25 to 30% maximum, and the diesel 20%. And this was done through very important measures and national projects to increase the local industrialization. If we come to talk about the cylinders, if we give the daily consumption figure, we use 800,000 cylinders per day. and it was more than 1 million, so it is now 800,000 only. This reduction is due to the expansion in providing households with natural gas, and through Decent Life initiative we are also extending natural gas to them according to our plan over the coming years. So this cylinder, we used to import 50% of them, and out of the 800,000 cylinders consumed per day, 50% of them are imported, and now we sell the cylinder for 75 Egyptian pounds. This is its official price in the local market, and it costs more than 190 pounds. With the recent developments in the exchange rate, its cost exceeds 220 pounds. So now when we come to talk about this main commodity, the cylinder that should be provided in every household in all governorates, for those who do not have natural gas, we are providing these needs through imports. Did we increase the price? No, we have fixed the price of the cylinder, and it's always available in all warehouses and centers. And we can say that the subsidy for that is more than 90 million pounds per day. And this would make us reach more than 36 billion pounds annually. This is to cover only one item. We as a state, and according to the government strategy and the directives of the President, we want to increase the price of these commodities, especially at this important time. When we move on to the other products, now we have what we call instant pricing, and we started it in June 2019. Every 3 months we revise the pricing of the diesel, and according to the prices of crude oil, and with the change of the exchange rate, according to the instant pricing mechanism, the prices of the diesel should have been increased by 10%, and the mechanism enables us to reach that level of increase. But we found that we are not going to increase the prices, taking into consideration the economic and social dimensions during this critical moment, and also to provide the product. So in the quarter of this year, we have fixed the price of the diesel, and this of course costs a subsidy, but there are other considerations, as the Prime Minister said, and there are other programs and incentives that were given, and the most important plan is providing fuel at all times nationwide. Thank you. The Minister of Supply. Thank you. This conference is a very important one to send a reassuring message that in addition to the social protection package agreed upon, there is a decision made to try to fix the prices of commodities. And here I'm talking about the ration card and the price of the loaf of bread, to provide all these goods and commodities. And I said before that we will provide them and not change the prices till the end of December this year. This is a very important decision to take into account the influence of the world crisis we are all through, and the increase of the main commodities, in addition to the directives of the Prime Minister to help industries, factories, supermarkets and shops operate and provide the commodities. And this is very important. and we are coordinating with the Federation of Egyptian Industries and the Chambers of Commerce, and we are cooperating all, and we are incurring the extra burdens resulting from these crises and the exchange rate up till the end of December. We are all going to cooperate to increase the supply and keep the prices as is. As the Prime Minister said, we are following this on a daily basis. I receive a daily report, and I follow up with the Central Bank of Egypt to increase the rate of releasing the raw materials for the production of these products, so that we would have enough supply of these commodities. As for the bread, you know that we consume 8.5 million tons of wheat. $8.5 million tons of wheat, 4 of which are local produced wheat and 4.5 imported wheat. For the local wheat, we have increased the price during the season and after adopting the budget by more than 125 pounds. It was 725 and now it's more than 885. So an increase of 1,000 per ton. And with the purchasing cost, it is 4 to 5 billion pounds extra for the local wheat. The increase of prices due to the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, as well as other international crises and the high transport costs, the average cost for a ton of wheat is $300 per ton, and the average we've reached is $418 per ton. So the ton has increased 118 tons. When we multiply this by 4.5 million tons, then it is about $5 billion, and this represents 18 to 20 billion pounds. 15 when we multiply it, so 15 and 5. Then the bread costs the state budget for pumping all the amounts needed and keep the price at 5 piastres. It costed the state all that sum, and it incurred 20 billion Egyptian pounds in addition to the 51 billion pounds for subsidy. So we're talking about bread subsidy of 71 billion pounds, so that we can produce 250 million to 270 million loaves of bread per day. So we're talking about 93 billion loaves of bread annually. And if you calculate it with the subsidy, then the cost of the loaf of bread now, according to the average prices I've mentioned, is 85 piastres, when we had 65 piastres in the budget. So all this difference is absorbed. And you know that for oil in particular, the prices of oil is doubled than it was before the pandemic and the Ukrainian war, and we kept the price of the oil at 0.8, and the cost really is 32 pounds, and you all know that. And despite that, we are trying to keep it as it is. In addition to sugar worldwide is witnessing increasing prices, but we are still keeping 1 kilo of sugar for 10.5 pounds. The least price outside the Ministry of Supply is 14 Egyptian pounds. And we are still keeping the price of macaroni pasta. And for the first time, the Ministry of Supply is providing the pasta factories with all the flour it needs at the cost price to keep producing the pasta and selling it at the same prices in markets regardless of the exchange rate and increase of wheat price. The ministry also is supporting some bakers, as last month there has been a lot of wheat that was not released, so we made a decision, and this decision will come to an end on the 11th of November. And if we find that there is a further need, we'll extend this decision until the food commodities needed are stable in the market. Another important point is the continuous follow-up and increasing the outlets as well as monitoring the prices. There is a real problem regarding prices. People want the commodities to be everywhere at the same price. Sorry, it's different because there are different trademarks. But if we call about 14 Egyptian pounds per kilo of sugar, this is a fair price. But if the commodities are sold without the price on it, then we need to intervene, and the citizen should cooperate with us. And we announced the customer protection hotline and the hotlines of the ministry, as well as the complaint department in the ministerial council. So we, the government, are cooperating with the citizens as well as the manufacturers and the producers, and by this we can overcome this difficult period. Thank you. We can take 2 questions. The Minister of Petroleum. I have a question about the decisions made by the government regarding rationalizing gas consumption in Egypt. Secondly, according to the export needs, we heard that Egypt exports of gas increased to be $600 million US monthly. The total of rationalizing the gas consumption and the increasing the exports, how much do we achieve annually? We need to know that as for exporting gas, it's related to 2 things. The fact that it is seasonal, whether it is winter or summer. During summer, of course, the exports are less. And during winter, exports of gas increase because I have more gas here as the consumption reduces here in Egypt. The second thing is the world prices. The world price depends on the international supply and demand. When we're talking about July, August, and September, the prices have increased in an unprecedented manner due to the fact that the European Union was filling its tanks. When they already finished filling their tanks, the prices are less now. The prices are less than half what we had in July, August, and September. So if you're talking about a figure now, then this is a dynamic figure, but in the average, we are expecting to consume this year 10 billion exports. I would like to tell you that in the framework of the plan developed between the Ministry of Electricity and the Ministry of Petroleum, regarding the coordination between them, because the largest part of our consumption of gas goes to electricity generating plants, And the Minister of Petroleum has already mentioned this before. We were able to receive the maximum capacity of Siemens stations. So we have now a saving of 15%. This figure, of course, changes per day. But as for the average, this is considered to be the figure we're able to achieve. And we try as much as we can to turn it into exports to benefit from our resources in providing hard currency. We're talking here about a whole year. This is the figure because we're talking about 12 months. Prime Minister, we know that the state is trying to provide the commodities, be it through exports or through the local market, and is trying to control markets through the campaigns. There was a decision made for having guiding prices for rice and bread. So can there be other decisions for other commodities, especially during these crises? Yes, we intervene through such decisions, and one of the examples was rice. When we announced the price of the packed rice and the unpacked rice. And we need to be aware that we're talking here about a free market. So the role of the state should be here very sensitive, because sometimes when the state over intervenes, this might lead to the disappearance of the product or the commodity, and we do not want that to happen. So we are very sensitive. The most important thing for me is the availability of the commodity, and this should be done through sensitive intervention from the state institutions and the control institutions to deal with the governance. As the Minister of Supply said, we are enforcing the role of Consumption Protection Agency. And you know that sometimes I meet people in the streets, so some people come and complain to me, so I tell them, let us be positive. The merchant tells me that I'm at a certain area and I find that the supermarket is selling the commodity at a price, and at the end of the street there is another supermarket selling at a higher price. So I tell them that we won't be able as a state and government to control hundreds of thousands of supermarkets. So it's the role of the citizen, when he finds this, he should report about this supermarket and say that here we have this shop and he overpriced the product. So then we will deal. So this is an important role, to report about those who do malpractices and overprice the products. The last question. Thank you. You mentioned that you are releasing the production materials. So do you expect this to lead to more stability of prices? Secondly, concerning let me tell you our expectations. Releasing the production materials would lead to increasing the production of the commodities, and despite changing the exchange rate, it will lead to more balance and stability in prices. And even through coordination with the federations of industries and chambers of commerce, they say that you will find a reduction of the prices of some commodities due to their availability and due to the increase of the production of factories. The last question. You mentioned a while ago the agreement with the Federation of Egyptian Industries and the Federation of the Chambers of Commerce to increase the wages of workers in the private sector. You know that they are waiting for the increase of their prices. So is there a mechanism? Let us explain this, and this is something that the President said to the Minister of Planning, celebrating the centennial of establishing the Federation of Egyptian Industries. The wages of the private sector is under the responsibility of the Wages and Salaries Council under the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development. I'm saying this according to what was mentioned by the head of the Federation. He said that we pledge to move on that and to increase the salaries in the private sector. There would be a meeting that would be held for the National Council for Wages, and let me tell you that we cannot oblige them to do so, because sometimes the circumstances of each industry and each factory is dependent on certain things. So I cannot force employers to increase because they have their economies. But the general trend that we are supporting and encouraging as a state is that the private sector would introduce these increases. But its timing and the value itself is something to be left to the private sector and the industry to decide upon it. But we are trying as much as we can in the meeting of the National Council for Wages to support that and to support the workers in the private sector, but the timing of application, of course, differs. We took the decision now that we will immediately in November start increasing the wages, as we took the decision and the Parliament endorsed it. So the salary of November would include this increase. But for the private sector, they might say, yes, okay, but give me 2 or 3 months to do it. This might be different from one industry to the other. So we agree on a plan and move accordingly. This is our role, but we as a state is keen on that. And once more, this is left to the private sector because they have their working conditions. And we know now how it is difficult to provide the production inputs. And once more, the most important thing for me as a government right now is to avail all the commodities so that the citizen would find them and they won't be deprived of it, because this gives the opportunity to more better prices. So when I asked about the expectations regarding the prices with the release of production inputs, I said that the more factories would operate with their maximum capacity, this means increase in supply, and then without even the intervention of the state, the prices would get back to normal. So this is our objective right now. Thank you. And the best wishes, and we are following up this critical moment, and the government is working round the clock according to the directives of the President to protect low-income segments and to provide the commodities for all the citizens. Thank you.